Today, we become legends.
With year 11 of Smite just around the corner at this point, I'm sure we're all wondering what Hi-Rez has in store for us next year. Inbound recently made a video on his wishlist for Season 11, and I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring as well. Go check out his video if you want to hear an ex-pro's opinion on what should be done with year 11. If you're happy listening to a hard-stuck Masters Arthur main YouTuber, then stick around, I've got a lot to cover. First up is a simple one, and that's recipes being phased out. This isn't a slight on the idea of recipes, I think they've been a really fun addition to spice up the game in the later half of this year. But in that same vein, I don't think they should be an evergreen mechanic within Smite. As for totems though, I actually would be okay with those staying, at least for a little while. Perhaps a small rework of them for balance reasons to encourage players to try out all 5 and not just go with 1 or 2 almost every game, though I would like to see the way they work with invades change specifically. You shouldn't be able to change the totem of enemy camps, but you should at least get whatever totem they had active at the time. At the moment, invading a buff is sort of a downside for you if you already have yours, since you lose your totem effect. Either make it so you get their totem effect, or at the very least it doesn't remove yours when you pick up a duplicate buff from the enemy jungle. With these changes though, I'd be happy to see totem buffs stay in the game for at least the first season of year 11 to see how it goes on a new map with tons of changes and if they're still necessary at that point. Next up is an obvious one, but some big meta shifts, specifically in solo lane, need to happen. I've made a couple of dedicated videos already on warriors and mage solos, so I'm not going to go super in depth here on why this meta is so trash and how to fix it. You can check out those videos after this one if you want. But some fix to bring warriors back into viability again, and ideally not just a band-aid fix that makes 4 warriors completely broken and continues to leave the rest of the class in the dirt like they've been doing all year. Some sort of major overhaul of how warriors fit into the meta is needed at this point. They haven't been balanced in literally years, it feels like, spending most of that time with the aforementioned handful of warriors that are completely broken and the rest are unplayable. Again, not going to go too deep on this topic here, but I would like to see something substantial done with warriors and solo lane as a whole in year 11. The next thing I want to see for the new Smite year is some form of new objective or mechanic added to Conquest, specifically one that affects the early and mid game heavily. Beacon is cool and all, but the small buffs it gives per stack aren't worth a whole lot. It's really when you get several stacks and unleash titans in the late game that it starts to make an impact. I would like to see some sort of new objective or mechanic or a lot of neutral farm that is worth a lot and players can fight over to bring back just a little bit of snowball to the game. We've all lived through how long Conquest games have been this season, and a large part of that is how little snowball there is on the map due to less objectives being available and a slew of mechanics that give the losing team an advantage, like gold chests and the frankly ridiculous shutdown bounties. The fact that I can solo someone 4 times in lane, then make one mistake and die in return only to see the enemy is now the same level as me and barely down in gold, it's a bit ridiculous. So I guess that's another specific wishlist entry. Nerf shutdown bounties or increase general kill bounties, add more neutral farm to push your objective, stuff like that will achieve the same goal, and remove the gold chest camp in my opinion. Another thing I would love to see is a more in-depth item system. Inbound covered this very well in his video, basically saying that items that are just stat sticks and every god builds them pretty much exactly the same way isn't really that fun. Having more items that are a bit niche but extremely powerful when they work with your god would make the whole item system a lot more interesting and vary builds a lot, giving opportunities to get an advantage through your build knowledge and skill, whereas right now you pretty much just learn one meta build and buy that on every single god you play in that role. More stuff like Old Glad Shield on King Arthur or Prophetic Cloak on Baba Yaga, and less generic items that are built by literally everyone every game. Also, while we're at it, bring back bruiser items. I think we've reached a point where the majority of the community, even non-tank players, want to see these items come back. And tank mains have been saying this pretty much since they got removed. It's a large part of the reason why the mage solo meta is so prevalent right now and why warriors are in such a bad state. The whole idea of the class is that they're bruisers that can deal damage and also tank up, but not do either of those things more effectively than the specific roles that cover them. And when you remove pretty much the entirety of a subset of items that make warriors viable, of course they're going to be in a terrible state. That's like just saying, oh, we're going to remove all high power items from mage builds and then see how it fares. It's just not going to work very well. So just add bruiser items back and I think the game will be a lot healthier for it. So this next one is just a personal request that I highly doubt would actually get done, but a remaster of the original PvE adventures of Trials of King Hercules and Shadows over Hercopolis with a new map and updated gameplay mechanics. These adventures were the absolute GOAT back in the day for me, and the only one that comes close is Corrupted Arena, but for different reasons of course. Next up is another round of spicy changes, ideally right at the launch of year 11, but if they come in the second or third season of the year or whatever, that's still good to see. I think Hi-Rez have probably learned a lot from their previous round of these changes and can look at what was successful, like Osiris and Kabrakan, and look at what was not super successful, like Athena, Chernobog, or Raijin. A lot of these changes made the gods in question instant meta picks that are yet to fall off after months, but with the knowledge of what went well and what went poorly last time, I think another round of new and improved spicy changes for certain gods will be very likely to happen next year. Either this or some straight up reworks to problematic gods like Arachne or Freya. Next up is another very personal one that probably a lot of people don't care about much, but that's a lore reboot. The current lore of Smite is a bit of a mess and isn't well written at all. A soft or hard reboot of why the gods are fighting with more engaging lore segments that include comics or videos to go with them would be amazing to see. At the moment, most of Smite's lore exists in absolute walls of text that probably less than 1% of the player base has even looked at, never mind read fully. And even less fully understand what's actually going on in the lore. As someone who tries to make videos on it, I can tell you that it's hella confusing and annoying to read at times. Make up some kind of apocalyptic end to the current lore and universe and rebirth it in some kind of alternate universe created by Cthulhu or Olaron or something. I don't know, I'm not a writer myself, and if I was, I'd just recreate my own Smite lore, but I feel like what we have currently is just very uninteresting and a huge waste of potential. There's so much intrigue to these real world gods that could be explored so much more with a fresh slate of lore to be built upon. And I'll just close out this video by saying that I don't expect all of these changes to be made in 1 year. This is simply a wish list of things I want to see, but with limited dev time, there's only so much that can be done with a new year launch. What do you guys personally want to see for year 11? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.